Hi, this is Dr. Jones. So this is going to be a video about how to use MasterFile Premier on your database. So if you go to the A to Z databases, you'll notice MasterFile Premier is one of those. By clicking on that, you get to this screen. You'll probably actually get to this screen here, but we'll take a look at it through um, the advanced look. And as I typically do, I will use the ethic with an asterisk as my subject term usage, and then go down here and take a look at options. So it allows me to do equivalent subjects, so there could be other subjects that are also related to something that doesn't just have the word ethic itself in it. You'll want to click on full text as always, is something that you want to be able to use, and click on peer reviewed. And then I click on article because I don't want it looking for books and so on like that. On this side, sometimes publication type you can use, but I want to leave that open because there aren't any really good ones there for us to do. I could do the publish date here, but I'm going to show you how to limit that on the other screen when we get into the search. And we could do PDF full text, but I won't do that because I want to be able to look for things that are also HTML text. So let's take a look at what we get. We do a search here, and it comes up with about 6,600 different articles that are possible. So we need to do some limitations. The first thing we see is publication date from 75 to 2020. So we need to limit that out. Now you may find this a little difficult to use from time to time. Remember, you can always put the year in here if you want to. You can just click on that, change it, and make it something else if you want to. But I was able to get to 2015 without a problem. But again, that's something you can choose later if you want. Because we clicked on full text and peer reviewed on the first search screen, it's already linked up, and because we chose article, it's already linked up with this as well. Now, I want to further limit this down to academic journals, and that takes me to under 1,000. So I've removed a lot, but there's still, 949 articles for me to choose. And at this point, you can put in another search term if you want to put in, drug trials or whatever you want to put into it. That's up to you based on what you are actually searching through. You could also look here for the subject index, where it will further show you some possibilities out there of other articles you might use. And I think this one's interesting, research ethics. And so I'm going to use that one just as an example of something out there. And here's one that pops up that I find to be an interesting article. The very first one here from the summer of 2019. It's called Research Ethics from the Inside. There should be a colon in there. Institutional review boards are responsible for protecting the rights of human research subjects. How do they really work? And whenever you do research for an academic institution, and really for uh, companies and so on like that, they should have these as well. They have IRBs, or institutional review boards. And what they're supposed to do, as we go over to that, what they're supposed to do is to provide you with a board to review your research subject to make sure that you're not doing something improper. You may have heard of interesting cases in the pre 1970s when there weren't really institutional review boards, and um, people could do whatever they wanted to for research. And a lot of times they would do things that were unethical. And there's One, you may have heard of the one where they brought people in to see the reactions of people to prison guards and how that went. And they weren't actually prison guards, they were all just people, but they were randomly selected into prison guards and prisoners. And um, they found, interestingly enough, they found that people who are given uh, the role of a prison guard will tend to use the power that they are given, even in that experimental state, the power that they're given in an unethical way sometimes. And people who are prisoners will sometimes do things that they assume prisoners would do. But there was no IRB, and so they actually had to shut down that study early because um, well, they found that people were abusing each other, and there were some people that were actually hurt in the study. Another was using supposedly electrical therapy to try to get people to quit smoking. And so they would give them a shock whenever they were using a cigarette. Or somebody else who was supposed to be doing that kind of thing. They were supposed to be giving people shocks, and they weren't actually, but there was a person in the background that every time a shock was supposedly delivered would go, ah, please. And the researcher was telling the person who was supposedly delivering the shock, keep going, do it. And they found that many people will, because, hey, it's what I'm told to do, and this is an experiment, will do that kind of stuff. Well, they've instituted institutional review boards to look at what kind of a subject you're doing, if there's any potential harm. And we know we use these kinds of things for medical experiments because they want to, make sure it's a controlled study and that, unreasonable risks aren't being used. But in academic institutions, we tend to use those all the time anyway, just to verify that somebody's, you know, thinking of what possible repercussions there might be. And so that's why we have IRBs. And this is an interesting article. I kind of read through it. I didn't read the whole thing, I will admit that to you, but I read through parts of it. And one part that I got to was as not seen in the movie. And I was reading through that. And there is a reference to the movie called The Constant Gardener. And that was an interesting movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if you haven't, it's a difficult movie. But if you go to it, this is what it looks like on the outside. Um, a man and his wife go to Kenya, and the reason that they go to Kenya is he doesn't know it at the time, but she's doing research on a. She's a humanitarian, and she's investigating a drug trial that's being run in Kenya, and it's an unethical drug trial looking at um, tuberculosis drug with major side effects, and they're running this thing on unsuspecting population. And that's very much what we're talking about with research institutional review boards. So anyway, whatever article you find, that's how you use this source. Take care.